Some people only tolerate you because it's easier than telling you the truth. Now, before you leave because I just insulted you, notice what your brain did. You're smart enough to know I don't actually know you. You're thoughtful enough to understand this is an example, and you're self-aware enough to realize one random sentence from a stranger probably should not matter. But it still may have bothered you. And here's the strange part. I just complimented you 3 times. Smart enough, thoughtful enough, self-aware enough. But there's a good chance your brain gave more weight to the insult. That is exactly what this video is about. A compliment can pass through your mind like background noise, but an insult can make your brain stop, investigate, and replay the sentence like it found evidence. Not because the insult is true, but because your brain treats social pain like a warning signal. Charles Darwin knew that feeling. Before he became one of the most influential scientists in history, Darwin was just a young man who didn't seem especially impressive to the people around him. He liked being outside, he liked hunting, he liked collecting things, he was curious, but not in the neat, respectable way his father seemed to want. And one day, his father said something that stayed with him. He told Darwin that he cared for nothing but shooting, dogs, and rat catching, and that he would become a disgrace to himself and his family. Imagine carrying that sentence around. Not for a day, not for a week, for years. The strange thing is, Darwin did not describe his father as a monster. In fact, he later wrote about him with love and respect. But that one sentence still survived. And that's what makes an insult so strange. A person can receive kindness, encouragement, praise, and support, but one cruel sentence can sit in the mind like it owns the place. You may know this feeling. Someone gives you 5 compliments and you barely know what to do with them. But one person makes one sharp comment and suddenly your brain becomes a private detective. What did they mean by that? Did everyone else notice? Was it true? Have people always thought that about me? And now, instead of remembering the good things people said, your mind keeps returning to that one thing that hurt. But there is an important difference between an insult and criticism. Criticism points at something you can improve. An insult attacks who you are. If someone says, this part of your work is confusing, that may sting, but it gives you something to fix. If someone says, you're just not good at this, that lands differently. One gives your brain a task, the other gives your brain a wound. But emotionally, the line can get blurry, because even useful criticism can feel like rejection at first. Your brain may not immediately ask, is this helpful? It may ask, am I safe? Am I accepted? Did I just lose status? That is why even good feedback can hurt before it helps. And it is why insults can be so powerful. They don't just give you information, they make you question your place. That is not because you are fragile. It is because the brain does not treat praise and criticism equally. Praise feels good, criticism feels useful. At least that is how the brain often interprets it. A compliment might tell you that you are safe, liked, or accepted, but an insult can feel like a warning. It may signal rejection, danger, embarrassment, or social threat. For most of human history, social threat mattered. Being disliked by the group was not just uncomfortable. It could affect your safety, status, relationships, and survival. So the brain learned to pay attention to negative information, sometimes too much attention. Psychologists often call this the negativity bias. It means bad experiences tend to grab our attention more strongly than good ones. A harsh word can feel louder than a kind one. A failure can feel more meaningful than success. A rejection can replay longer than acceptance. And researchers have found this pattern in many parts of life. One famous psychology review put it simply, bad is often stronger than good. Bad feedback tends to hit harder than good feedback. Bad impressions can form faster. Bad events can take more work to recover from, which explains why one insult can feel more convincing than 10 compliments. The compliment says, you're doing fine. The insult says, pay attention, something might be wrong. And your brain is very interested in anything that might be wrong. In one study, researchers had people hear repeated compliments and insults while measuring their brain activity. You might expect the brain to get used to the words after hearing them again and again. And in some ways it did. But insults kept grabbing attention. Even when repeated, even when the person knew they were part of an experiment, negative words still produced a strong response. The researchers compared verbal insults to tiny social slaps. And honestly, that is what they can feel like. A compliment can land softly, but an insult can snap your attention back into the room. You might forget someone saying, "Nice job," but you remember someone saying, "That was embarrassing." And this does not only happen with strangers, it happens in relationships too. Relationship researcher John Gottman is known for studying how couples interact during conflict. One of the most famous ideas from that work is the 5-to-1 ratio. Healthy relationships tend to need more positive interactions to balance out negative ones. That does not mean every small argument is ruining a relationship, but it does mean negativity has weight. One cruel comment can echo, one dismissive look can linger, one moment of contempt can overshadow an entire good day. That is why people can remember an insult from a teacher, a parent, a partner, a boss, or a friend years after the person who said it has forgotten it completely. To them, it was a sentence. To your brain, it may have become evidence. And that is where the real danger begins. The insult itself is painful, but the story we build around it can be worse. Someone says, "You're not very good at this." And the mind quietly turns it into, "I'm not talented. I'm embarrassing. I don't belong here. I should stop trying." The original comment may have lasted 3 seconds. The identity you build from it can last for years. So what do we do with this? The answer is not to pretend insults do not hurt. They do. And sometimes criticism is useful. Sometimes it points to something we need to improve. But the skill is learning to separate pain from truth. So when an insult sticks, do 3 things. First, name it. Tell yourself, this is my brain treating criticism like a threat. That one sentence creates distance. It reminds you that feeling is real, but it may not be accurate. Second, check the source. Is this person someone you respect? Do they know what they are talking about? Were they trying to help you grow or just trying to hurt you? Because not every loud opinion deserves authority in your life. Third, look for the pattern. If 5 trusted people have gently told you the same thing, maybe there is something worth learning. But if one careless person said one cruel thing one time, do not let that become your identity. Use criticism like a tool, not a mirror. A tool helps you improve something specific. A mirror tells you who you are. And an insult should almost never be allowed to do that, because your brain may remember insults more than compliments. But memory is not the same thing as truth. So the next time one painful sentence keeps replaying, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And just as importantly, what should I leave behind? Because one insult may get your attention, but it does not deserve to become the narrator of your life.